Chapter 19, Cartel Wives. Let's get it.
Do or die time. Olivia. Right after Junior and Peter came back to our beach house, some Mexican federal agents drove all of us back to Guadalajara in 2 armored trucks. It was me and Junior in one, and Peter and Mia in another. The whole ride back, I remember thinking, if I ever really wondered whether or not the federal government was assisting drug lords, this sure as hell settles it. In fact, agents were so in the cartel's pockets that Peter and Junior decided to pay the AFI officer who helped them escape the U.S. Marshals $2.25 million just as a thank you. Chapo, Mayo, and Arturo Beltran had saved our husbands' lives once again. And ours for the first time, which cemented Junior and Peter's position in the cartels even further. Just like any big company that has executives, they were now at the top, and that afforded them benefits. Chapo gave them special passwords.
She said, the cartel saved our ass again. Well, technically, the cartel kidnapped you and extorted you the first time, too, or the second time. The Theo Lupe time, you know what I'm saying? That was technically the cartel, because Chapo could have wrote off that 10 mil to Lupe. He didn't do that. He put that on your ass, and y'all had to pay for that. So technically, I don't know how much they saved the ass. Like, it costs you. It's going to cost you every time they save your ass, for real.
Chapo gave them special passwords to let paid-off government officials know which cartel they were connected to. The passwords were basically get-out-of-jail-free cards. Then, to make them feel even safer, he specifically told them they'd never have to worry about extradition. After all, he was always notified when the United States was planning to pay a visit.
Mia. Even with that kind of protection, Peter and Junior were feeling less and less safe every day.
Hell yeah.
They added extra security at the perimeters of our houses and invested in new cameras that were more sophisticated than the regular eye-in-the-sky kind you see in department stores. There wasn't a single blind spot between the two of our homes, and it was a constant reminder of the harshness of my life. I remember thinking, it's like I'm living in a war zone.
My dear, you were living
Olivia,
in a war zone.
But Junior and Peter weren't ready to get out entirely. "We've been talking about scaling back, baby," he said to me. "I think maybe we could just slow down, not grab any more work from Chapo, Mayo, or the BLO, and just send our own work." I was skeptical. "What does Peter say?" I asked. "He's mostly concerned about our workers. We're everything to them. We're responsible for 80 families, and we can't just back off. They need to make money, but he also thinks that we can never really get away. We make all the money for the cartels, and every time we accept shipments in the United States, we're in debt to them. If something gets seized, we'll owe millions." Junior paused. "My brother may be right. I'm not sure we can ever just walk away from them without getting killed. There's no halfway, is there? I don't know. So that's what we need to discuss."
Mia.
I don't know how they did that, because I think the slightest pullback and Chop on them going to notice, hey, y'all slowing down on us? It's like working in a factory, man. You can't go in there all happy and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and push more numbers than they ever seen before. Why? Because now they expect you to beat those numbers. They know you can reach those numbers, and they just want to run you into the dirt and get as much out of you as they possibly can. Same thing with the cartel. Mind you, these numbers have probably been brought up, and they're making a lot more money with the twins on team. And they're looking at them like, y'all invented these numbers. You can't beat them? You slowing down? You backing up? Nah, we ain't having that. Time to the tree.
The bad taste of our kidnapping was still with us, and we knew it would never leave. Even though the cartels had promised to protect us, there was nothing truly stopping anyone from trying to kidnap us again.
Facts.
There was nothing keeping the Mexican government from arresting and extraditing Peter and Junior either. Sure, the cartels had told my husband and brother-in-law they were untouchable, but if there's anything we'd learned in the last 4 years, it was that life could change at a moment's notice.
And no one's untouchable.
By March 2008, that realization and the question of what we should do about it felt even more urgent, because Olivia and I had just discovered we were both pregnant.
Damn. Double bubble.
Olivia. I always said I wanted my kids a grade apart. I loved being a mom, and I adored being pregnant. And before I'd had Brandon, I felt so close to Junior knowing his baby was growing inside me. I loved how attentive he'd been and how much he catered to me. He would kiss my belly and rub my feet every night, saying, "You've never been more beautiful to me." Still, I knew Junior was hesitant about having another child. His worst fear was something bad happening and me having to raise our babies alone. But understanding how much I wanted it and how much he loved our family, he went with it. He and I started trying to get pregnant again pretty much immediately after Brandon was born. We tried and tried and tried every month and had a lot of fun in the mix of it all, but nothing happened. After a year, I was like, what the heck is taking so long? Then I got kidnapped. I guess I should have known I was pregnant that night. I mean, I suspected. I'd been pretty up and down emotionally, but I hadn't confirmed it. But then, bam, we got dragged out of that club, and I was 1,000 times more crazy and hormonal than I usually am. I'd never cried so much or so loudly. As soon as we got back to Guadalajara, I took a test, and sure enough, there were those 2 little blue lines on a stick. I was so happy when I found out. I wanted nothing more than to be a devoted wife and mother. Having Brandon with Junior had been the greatest thing that had ever happened to us. We developed such an intimate bond, a closeness that was almost unexplainable. Junior was the best dad, too. He and Brandon were glued at the hip. They took naps together. Junior sterilized his bottles and watched every Disney movie with him. We had 3 housekeepers, 1 per floor, to make sure the house was spotless. But Junior would not let the señoras touch Brandon's bottles.
Forget señoras. My housekeeper gonna have to have straps, vests, know her way around the artillery, boy. Cause y'all wilding in the middle of some mountain somewhere with a couple of viejitas taking care of the kids. You needed goons out there.
His associates started calling him Mama. And when you'd see Junior, he'd be carrying his messenger bag full of phones and our boy's diaper bag, 1 per shoulder and crisscrossed in the back. When I'd walk in the house and see Brandon, he'd turn his little head on me because he just wanted to be with his dad. It was going to be another new beginning for us, or so I told myself. But deep down, I knew. We couldn't keep living like this. Our babies deserved better.
Mia. Even though Peter and I were married over 2 years before we decided to have a baby, I'd always known I'd wanted to be a mom. I'm a nurturer. I like to take care of people, really listen to them, and let them know they're loved. And I knew Peter would be a wonderful dad. But we'd put it off, mainly because we wanted to enjoy each other's company. One morning in 2007, though, Peter woke me up. He was kneeling by the bed and he took my hand. "I have to ask you an important question," he said. "Is it something bad?" "No, it's not bad. Just listen to me. I want to know if you want to have my baby." I was a little confused, but I went along with it anyway.
Have a baby by me, baby.
I'd love to have your baby.
Be
We've
a
already talked
millionaire.
about this. No, serious. I want to make sure this is forever. I was getting more confused by the second. We're married. Of course this is forever. What are you saying? I don't want you to say anything today. I want you to think about it. I want to offer you $5 million and you can go if you know that you can't be with me for the rest of your life. If you know in your heart that you can, then we should have a child. But if you know that this is not what you want, and I am not what you want, and this life is not what you want, then I'd rather see you happy somewhere else. I was floored. I started thinking, why is he doing this to me? Is this a trick? But I realized he couldn't bear to have me live through another kidnapping.
How many other women, percentage-wise, what's the over-under on how many other women would have took the $5 million and said, "Fuck this, I'm out"?
This was not an easy life. And the future?
Shit, if she's a queen pin, how many men making that same decision? I'm gonna Gigolo and Sancho Pay with the 5 mil, I'm gone. Flip that.
The next day, even, felt so uncertain. Having a child was momentous and final in a way that just being married wasn't. Because if he died or disappeared before having a child with me, it would just be my loss. If the same thing happened with a baby, it was a loss for an entire lifetime. Peter knew that having a child was the biggest decision we'd ever make, and right then, I realized it too. The next day, though, I said yes. Peter was my life. Our future family was my life. And one morning, in March 2008, just 2 months after our kidnapping, I got the news I'd been dreaming of. I love pizza. I could eat it 3 times a day and still go back for more. Yet one night, Peter and I ordered pizza, and I couldn't stand to look at it, let alone eat it. "Get that away from me," I said to Peter. I went to bed early, still hungry, and the next morning, I woke up and walked to the bathroom. Sitting on the vanity was a cup holding one beautiful flower and an unopened pregnancy test. I removed the test from the cup and walked back into the bedroom to talk with Peter. "What's with this?" I asked, smiling. "Go back in the bathroom and take that test," he said. "I have a feeling it's going to be good news." Less than 5 minutes later, I saw those 2 little blue lines on a stick.
Olivia, for all of us, me, Mia, Junior, and Peter, the Puerto Vallarta kidnapping became our second chance. When Mia and I were tied up, thinking we'd die right there before having more babies, our husbands were thinking the same thing. They were asking themselves, is this the life we want for our wives and children? We can't do this to them anymore. If this happens again, it's going to end in tragedy, and everyone, including our kids, will be dead. I also realized how lucky we'd been. If the marshals had taken Junior and Peter back to the United States, they would have been facing life behind bars. I would have been left alone, pregnant, with 2 babies to raise by myself.
That was a close-ass call. No Mencho, no Musico, no Okie Dokes to get in the backseat of that car and get traded to the U.S. And they actually got in them cars and went to the U.S. Whole different story right there. Them dudes just doing life in prison, period. There was no way they were going to escape in the U.S. Chapo knows he can't escape in the U.S.
That's why Junior and I started talking almost nightly about getting out. "I won't ever forget what you looked like at Kay's funeral," he said to me. "You were pregnant, lying on the ground in agony. I felt it then and I feel it now. That can't happen again." I was on the same page. I just couldn't live through that again. We knew it wouldn't be easy, though. The Sinaloa Cartel and the BLO had just gone to war with each other, and Junior and Peter saw that things were headed in a bad direction, like worse than ever. They were on the fringes of the kind of personal retaliation they'd never seen before.
Mia. On January 21st, 2008, Mocomo was arrested in Culiacan with $900,000 in cash and an arsenal of rifles, automatic weapons, bulletproof vests, and grenades. The Beltran Leyva brothers believed that it was El Chapo and the Sinaloa Cartel who had tipped off the authorities to Alfredo's hiding place in a Culiacan safe house, and they were enraged, vowing revenge. This incident sparked the beginning of the feud that quickly turned the BLO against the Sinaloa Cartel.
Olivia.
There it is. The split.
The arrest of Mocomo infuriated his brothers. With Alfredo behind bars, Arturo took the helm of the Beltran Leyva organization, vowing he'd get back at Chapo. Violence in Culiacan shot through the roof, and the months of February and March and beyond saw all-out warfare on the streets of Culiacan. Chapo's men were cut up into pieces, which were then thrown into the trunks of their cars. BLO workers were shot at random in the mom-and-pop bars they frequented at the end of every workday. It wasn't uncommon for safe houses to be firebombed, with the workers inside so badly burned that their bodies couldn't be identified.
Dirty game.
Mia. Right away, Peter and Junior had found themselves in the middle of the two warring factions. Both the BLO and the Sinaloa Cartel needed them, though, so while they felt somewhat protected, the heat was on. To each side, the obvious way to get more power over the other was pull Peter and Junior closer into the fold. So each brought up the idea of a plaza. The BLO wanted them to control Tijuana, while Chapo and Mayo hoped to turn over Mexicali.
Olivia. A plaza is a piece of real estate specific to trafficking. There was a plaza in Vallarta, another in Culiacan, and more in pretty much every major drug center in Mexico.
Much more detailed in this book than they were in Surviving the Chapo. And I understand why. I mean, it was a podcast, more of a conversation, an interview. In a book, you're able to sit down, reflect, write down things and get them right. You know what I'm saying? It's not just off the cuff a recording. So, very well done, man.
The head of a plaza controlled that area, coordinating which drugs were coming in and which were going out. He negotiated police protection, and anyone who sold drugs in that area would have to get his permission. It was a powerful position to be in, and to a lot of the cartel members in Mexico, it was the highest you could go without actually being the boss. The idea was to have Junior and Peter control a plaza together. After all, they'd always run a dual business, and there was no way one would go to one cartel and the other go to another. They were a team, and two heads weren't just better than one. They were one. But they respectfully declined. We don't want that kind of power, they said. I'm sure Chapo and the Beltran Leivas just shook their heads and looked at them like they were crazy. But Peter and Junior weren't chasing that kind of massive ego drug lord life. This was just a business to them, and they were always going to choose family over everything.
Mia. They knew that if they got a plaza, they would have to send us back to the United States to live. Just like Chapo or all of the other cartel bosses, they'd have to go into hiding, and we'd only see them once they sent for us. Chapo didn't care about being in the mountains. He'd just have girls come to him. But Peter and Junior wouldn't think about giving us up. It was totally out of the question.
Olivia. They could turn down a plaza, but they couldn't escape their associates who'd started putting pressure on them. One day, after Mocomo got arrested and the Beltran Leiva brothers soured on Chapo and Mayo, Musico called Junior. He wanted my husband to come see him, but Junior said that he couldn't. I can't come see you because Rambo's here, he said. He's been in town on an operation and said it's not a good time for me to come out. If Musico had a problem with Junior hanging out with Rambo, he didn't say it on that call. Sure enough, though, the next day Musico found out that Rambo had picked up Arturo Beltran's right-hand man, a guy they called El Comandante, taken him back to his ranch and killed him in front of his whole family.
We go.
The operation Junior had mentioned was a deliberate act against the BLO, and Musico was pissed. He called Junior and said as much. Rambo killed El Comandante. You better tell me where the fuck Chapo is because I'm going to kill him myself. Junior just sat there, worried. He had no idea the operation was a direct blow to the BLO.
Gotta pay attention.
Musico, he said, you know my brother and I have nothing to do with this war. We're not fighting, you know us. You know we don't get involved. Don't be mad at us, we're just working. But Musico kept screaming, you better pick a side, pick a fucking side.
Because the same way, in the middle of a conversation about something that he didn't really understand the depth of as far as we're being told here, just out of that conversation, you giving up information to the other side, right? Not that you have a side, but you're giving up information. And Musico got to be looking at it like, and that's a two-way street. You know, what if I was running an operation and you're so used to us being together and you're so used to us being one big happy family that you speak freely, and next thing you know, you done hip somebody to my mission. Crazy, dangerous game that they're all playing, and the twins is in there like, no, they're on top of them. Dudes are on top of it. Pick a side.
Mia. You could see the stress on Peter's face. I'd been with him through 3 kidnappings, but I'd never seen this kind of pressure bubbling up inside him.
It's a lot.
He and Junior were 2 warring cartels' biggest and best pipelines for sending drugs into the United States, and bodies were piling up to their right and their left. He came to me just a few weeks after I found out I was pregnant. I think Junior and I need to stop doing this. Without taking a moment to think about it, I pulled him to me, looked him straight in the face, and said, yes. Let's go talk to Junior and Olivia then.
Olivia. Mia didn't know that Junior and Peter had actually been talking for days. Maybe it was because Peter had tried to protect her, like he always did. Or maybe she was just so happy about being pregnant that Peter didn't want to spoil that moment for her. But I was always in Junior's ear, and I'd been begging for this more than anyone.
Mia. We initially started talking, all together, every few weeks after dinner. Some conversations were vague, and some were specific, with names and details and dates. We were scared. After all, we were considering changing everything in our lives.
Olivia. One night that April, we were sitting around the kitchen table at Mia and Peter's place. I don't know who started talking first, but I think it was Junior. Peter, things are changing, and we have to put our family first. I just don't think we can slow down and scale back. And if we move overseas, the cartels are just going to hunt us down. They're killing everyone, even their own fucking family. There's no walking away from them, and we'll have no protection. We risk the feds grabbing us and extraditing us. I don't think Junior had to convince his brother. He already had his mind made up. Peter got really serious and said what we were all thinking. We should call our lawyer and see if we can cut a deal. We can't keep doing this to our family.
This was told totally different in Surviving El Chapo. So used to saying subscribe. I would say subscribing El Guapo and the Gomez twins. In Surviving El Chapo, they told that story differently. There were things at the time that they probably couldn't really come clean with in this book in 2017 or 2016 when it was written, 15, whatever that was. But it was told totally differently. Here it says Junior brings it up rather matter-of-factly, and Peter's all in. In Surviving El Chapo podcast, they said Junior brought it up to Peter. Peter flipped the fuck out and then came back days later and was like, what would we have to do? How would we do it?
Mia. Peter and Junior had put their blood, sweat, and tears into their organization, so leaving it all behind wasn't going to be easy. But there were 3 things weighing on us. First, we had unborn children. Bringing them into the drug world wasn't just unsafe. It perpetuated a cycle that had started the day Junior and Peter were born. They didn't want our kids to be raised the way they had been, and Brandon had already been exposed to too much. There was security around the perimeter outside where he played. A room packed with millions of dollars in cash next to his nursery, and 2 parents who didn't come home one night because they were handcuffed in a torture chamber. Second, this life wasn't guaranteed. Sure, Peter and Junior had worked day and night to build their business, but all of it could change at a moment's notice. The people they'd help make rich could betray them any time, then kill them and our whole families and not lose a second of sleep over it. There was no loyalty. People were dying left and right, families murdering families. They wanted no part of that, and neither did we. Finally,
They were like, yo, we just got into this to get some paper. We ain't here to be tough guys. We ain't here to be terrorists. We ain't here to be no mass murderers. We're not here to be Tony Montana. We're here on business. But that's how they do business out there. It's very disposable business. They will dispose of you.
what they were doing just wasn't right. Peter and Junior had morals, but their job didn't. People in Chicago, a city we all loved, were strung out on drugs they'd shipped. Mothers had lost their teenage sons in cartel crossfire. Olivia's second husband had been murdered by a gang that was fueled by drug dealing. Peter and Junior turned to us. With one look of doubt from either me or Olivia, they would have had a change of heart. "What do you think?" Peter said. Olivia and I nodded our heads in unison. Get out. It was decided. Pedro and Margarito Flores were going to become federal informants, bring down the cartels, and dismantle everything they'd helped create.
That's it. Good episode. They got babies coming. There's a war. They gave you the reason why. So-and-so got locked up by so-and-so's cop. Then this happened, that happened. Long story short, hay guerra. Pick a side. Whose side you on? And they said, we're on our side. We getting out of here. They're going to make a deal.